Wait a minute. It'll be live on YouTube.
So it's showing?
No, well, it's not showing, but it says we're live on YouTube.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. We just got off our Facebook live stream, and now here we are on YouTube. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate you joining us. We're going to get to some questions in just a little bit. But for those of you who are just with us on Facebook, we kind of want to go over a quick overview, I guess, for those of you who weren't with us on Facebook, what we just had discussed. Okay. So, Mike, you want to just go over what we went over on Facebook, and I'll finish getting this all clicked in here?
I don't remember.
Purse snatching.
Oh, there we go. Yep, thank you. I don't remember what it was about, though.
The case is in Hamden with a purse snatching, and some of the questions were, well, I have OC spray, so if I get purse snatched, I'll just go ahead and use my mace. Not even OC spray, it's called mace. It's the same thing the mailman carried to keep the dogs away, which is very low, it's not potent at all. But the question was, from us, is how are you going to get to that? If it's at the bottom of your purse, how are you going to get to that? That's
how about you grab that OC spray or that mace you have in your bag, and I guarantee you it's expired. Look at the expiration date on there, and it may not even fire. It may have crystallized. It may be useless.
Right.
Have you ever been sprayed by it? Have you ever had to fight through it? Do you know how effective it is? Like Scott and I and a lot of guys coming in guys and gals coming in law enforcement, you get sprayed by your mace, you get or your OC, and you get tasered to see if you can what that's like, and you get you take the OC and then you have to fight through it. I'm not saying everybody should go out and spray themselves in the face with their mace or their spray, but it's something to consider.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or even just put it on your hands and wipe it on your forehead, see how it feels. This way you get that level one.
Spray in the room, if you spray it in any area that's not open to the even outside, you can spray it outside and gag on it. It'll cause a reaction outside.
Absolutely. And one of the other questions we had was moving on from that topic was firearm topic of everyday carry. What do you recommend for everyday carry? So when we cover that a little bit here as we get started.
Yeah, I like the 9mm. It's for a lot of shooters, you get more ammunition in the magazine than you do in a larger caliber gun. Although you are limited by the law and how many you can have regardless. So that kind of throws it out the window at times. But also for people that, maybe have a little hard time controlling a higher caliber or feel less confident with it, 9mm, at least I know it's kind of coming out of my mouth. It's a little different because I'm very proficient. I'm very comfortable shooting. So it doesn't bother me, the caliber. But I do, you do see a different response from the weapon, 9mm versus a 40 or a 45.
I mean, I carry a 45 off duty, but I mean, I'm looking to buy a 9mm just for that. Just not even to shoot better. And you want to look at the cost of it. It's a little cheaper for 9mm bullets versus the 45. The gun might be a little bit cheaper, but I mean, not saying the 45 is the end all, the be all, which is not. I recommend a 9mm.
Yeah.
And I wish that's what I went to, but I didn't.
So here we are. So we're going to the 9mm Glock for Scott. Will be the next invested.
Bring it on.
Somebody else buys it, right, Scott?
You buy it, I'll use it.
That's right. I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So let's talk, guys, a little bit, if we could, about the continuing on with the seminar coming up and a couple of other events we have. So a lot of you asked questions about the T4 Survival Camp and exactly what was, why was it designed? Who's it for? And I know a lot of people, the biggest question they say is, do I have the experience level to be able to attend the T4 Survival Camp? Because either they haven't done any firearm training at all, or they've only gone to the range and shot at paper targets for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. And the answer to that is the T4 Survival Camp was designed for the civilian that just got their pistol permit or has had their pistol permit and wants to get more proficient and confident in carrying their firearm, right, guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, the attendees we've had come to the camp, some of these people have been carrying for 30, 40 years and, or had a firearm for 30, 40 years and not really carried it because they just don't, they haven't felt they're at a place to do that yet.
Right.
For me, that's kind of, I can't imagine being like that, having it that long and not getting to a point where you feel comfortable. But we also have people coming to camp that are they just got their permit. This is their first gun. And they want to feel more confident and feel like they've gotten some training because the basic NRA safety class is just that. It's an NRA safety class. It's the basic requirement to get you to the point where you can apply for your pistol permit. And you should have to do something else. I'm not saying that because what we're offering, because there's a lot of places you can go to, but you very seldom get access to 80 years or maybe longer of marksmanship training between the three of us. Yeah, I think I've been shooting for 30 years now. Scott's probably about the same. Jamie probably about the same, but you're on a private location, you know, in an environment where it's up to the imagination with what we designed for training or forces of fire. There's nobody going to come out there and bother you. There's nobody going to be looking over your shoulder, and nobody's judging. And we're all out there learning, and we learn from you, and you learn from us. It's a collaborative effort.
You know, something that we pride ourselves on in just about every event that we hold is a smaller classroom size floor, whether it's the camp, whether we're running seminars at our training centers around the country at our affiliate schools, or even our classes that we hold, Krav Maga classes in Connecticut and Maine. We limit the class size. And the reason for that is making sure that every student's getting personalized attention and that they're getting everything they possibly can out of the training. And the student to instructor ratio, to me, and I know to my team as well, is extremely important because we want you to leave there confident. We want you to leave there knowing that you accomplished what you came there to accomplish, whatever your goal set was, that you were able to accomplish that goal. Right, guys?
Yeah, we mass produce or mass conduct training. Get as many people in the room as we can, and you walk away with bad information or you're not learning the information that we're putting out. It's a disservice to you. It's a disservice to us. It could basically, the wrong kind of training and the wrong instructor basically put you it could put you in danger. Showing you how to, you know, like from the Krav or weapon retention or some of these techniques. Bad instructors are out there, bad training, bad information is out there, and the stuff that they're showing you will get you killed.
Yeah.
And we don't, I don't want that. And none of us want that. We want to show you solid information, solid technique, and we want you to feel comfortable with what you're learning. And we work within your skill set, and we help push you beyond your where you're at. We get you a little farther. We're not going to sit there and we're not bringing in. I'll say who asked. We do some rappelling? No, I'm not. I'm not pushing you out of a tower to have you fire at targets on the way down. We're not doing crazy things. We're doing things that are practical and make sense, and that you could encounter in your day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, to piggyback off that, what we do up there is a lot of down here in Connecticut, or you can't do at the ranges. You can't get into a hand-to-hand combat and then come up on target and do that. You can't shoot and move. You can't shoot around in and around a vehicle. You can't do this. You can't do that. So the benefit of this camp is you go, like Mike said, you take the NRA pistol course, nothing wrong with it. It's a great foundation, but we go well beyond that. But once of course, you're more comfortable, we go well beyond that. We do a lot of fun stuff. We do a lot of moving and everything else. So we're not going to drag you along and leave you behind. We're going to make sure you're comfortable before you get to do everything we do. So you just can't do that anywhere else.
I want to say hi to Kydex Holster Solutions. They're online right now, and they said the camp is amazing. And thank you, David. Appreciate you coming on and joining us. And Jeffrey's online said not only the camp is amazing, but you can attend at any age over 18. My last camp, when he attended our camp, he's 68. And was able to participate in most of the events and the training that we had at the camp. So thank you for jumping on, Jeff. We appreciate you being here as well.
I know it sounds a little silly, but one of the coolest things we do while we're up there is our night shooting. we're in the middle of nowhere, and you would not believe the skyscape you see. I know it's not anything shooting, but it's just awesome.
Yeah, it really, really is. The
It-
bonfire, the stars above.
Yeah.
Well, we roll,
And then you
we
go back.
roll-
And then you go back to the camp, and everybody's like, "Oh, that was you, God! You guys are so loud." You know, it's comical. It's comical.
Yeah, but what's nice is one of the features is nice is we go right from where we're staying at the Birches, and we drive down the street, and it's secured by a gate. We gain access to our location. We lock it. We're in there. People aren't just wandering down there. It's not. If you stumble onto us, you came looking. It's not an easy path to get there, and we like that. It's purposeful.
Mm.
You know, and so it's a safe environment, it's a secure environment, and I tell you, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that we get asked a lot about the camp is the accommodations and where they're going to be staying. And I know we've seen a lot of camps and from that run these firearm type training events, and you're staying in a tent, or you're staying at a hotel, and you're traveling into the camp. Everything is within a mile of each other, and you're staying at the beautiful Birches Resort, which is on Moosehead Lake in Maine. You walk out of your cabin because you have a lakefront cabin when you stay with us, and you're literally 25 feet from the lake. Every cabin has a fireplace inside, or a wood stove, and the lodge is within a few feet of walking distance from where you're staying, and that's where we meet for our receptions and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Which breakfast, lunch, and dinner is also included. And Chef Paul at the Birches does an amazing job with our menu. Evening time, we have prime rib, baked stuffed scallops, haddock. Mike, I
It's
know
all
that.
garbage. Just get the haddock, and you'll never want anything else.
So just the whole experience all the way around is phenomenal, from of course us, the instructors, to the instructions you're going to get at the camp, to the accommodations that you're going to be staying in, the social environment, and the friends you're going to make at the camp. I know our last camp in October, we had clients from Hawaii and Los Angeles and Northern California, Ohio, Arkansas, and they bonded. They made some good friends, and are looking forward to seeing each other at the camps coming up this year. And I know, Scott, you like to mention about you could bring your dogs as well, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a dog-friendly
yeah,
environment. So you probably
absolutely.
need to get a private cabin, which we can get you a private cabin, but you can bring your dogs along too. So if you have an issue with boarding and such, that's an option for you.
I got to be fair though to Chef Paul. It's not garbage. I don't want to say that. Everything was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I kind of fell in love with the haddock. I think I tried having it for breakfast. Even it was that good.
It absolutely is.
And even the portions. Let's talk about the portions. Come on, that's not a
Hey, listen,
small.
can we stop talking about the food? Let's talk about the training. That's what
No,
we're here about, guys.
No, we're gonna keep talking. But I mean, the portions it's unbelievable. You eat breakfast, you're not even full until dinner.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
true.
It's crazy. It's crazy up there.
So getting back to the training, because you bring up a really good point, Mike, is that we've been asked the question about the rifle training we're putting into this camp coming in May. I know in October we worked shotgun, and the 2 camps prior to that last year we worked in a little bit of rifle, but we didn't do anything really with long distance. Mike, you want to take the conversation for a minute and talk a little bit about the segment that we're going to put in for this camp in the long range shooting?
Well, I kind of want a little bit. I kind of enjoy the long distance shooting. Problem is, I got to find out if they're going to let me go crazy and really embrace the long distance shooting, or just a little bit of a teaser, or more than just a teaser. We're going to work on 200 yards as an average, but we're going to take some longer distance shots and see, just to get some experience doing it. Rifle can be a little bit of a different game than your handgun. I know people want to do the close quarter with rifle all the time, but the rifle really is out there. You can get some really good shots at distance.
Right.
And being new to it, we're not going to tell them we're going to make them tag a target at 1,000 yards. We have the range to do it.
Yeah, more than that.
Probably play around because I can't help myself, and then do some demonstration work, and maybe give them an opportunity to try for some of that. But our goal is 200 yards, and then maybe a couple 500 yards just to kind of get a feel for it. Discussing everything from how wind affects your round at distance,
Right.
positional shooting, sling work, the different. Just there's it's a skill and a all in itself.
Right.
And not everybody is into it, but if you're curious and you want to try it, it's definitely the time to do it.
Yeah, and not even curious. I think it's important that everyone has at least foundational skills of how a rifle functions and how it operates, so that if you ever find yourself in a situation, I always like to make the example of a terrorism type event or an active shooter event, and you're neutralizing that threat, and that rifle goes flying out of that shooter's hands, and you have to pick it up to be able to save lives, and how you use it, how does it operate. So I think the fundamentals are extremely important, even if you don't plan on owning a rifle or using a rifle. That's why I think it's important that we include it in the camp and in the training, right? So another question that we have, this one is coming from offline. We have a client that has a woman in her 40s that runs and is very active in the neighborhood, running and staying active and staying in shape. And a few months back, she was followed by a person in a vehicle, and noticed the person was following her. And when she turned around a corner, the vehicle pulled up, opened up the door, and told her to get in and commanded her to get in. Now, she didn't freeze, which was good. She just ran as fast as she could to the closest home, which happened to be relatively close to where she was standing, and knocked on the door, and the guy drove off. But the question being asked is, did she handle that situation appropriately, and what to do in the future to avoid that happening again? One is situational awareness, because luckily she saw the vehicle and was suspicious of the vehicle prior to him pulling up. But maybe not stay on that jog any longer, right? Not thinking to yourself or just qualifying would be an important thing. If you have a suspicion, or you have that inner voice telling you something just isn't right with this, is listening to that and maybe getting out of there earlier than saying, I'm going to finish my run, and just qualifying it in your mind. That's probably nothing. What am I worried about? I watch the news too much, and it's not going to happen to me, and continuing your run and then having something dangerous happen. So removing yourself out of the situation, I think, would be something that I would recommend. Guys, you want to add something?
Absolutely. And well, she did the right thing by running to the next house or whatever. But maybe even unplug your earphones and start videotaping on your phone. Start recording. Get a license plate. Send it off to the police. I don't know if she called the police or not, but get a license plate. Get a description of the guy. Because 10 to 1, if he did it to you, he's most likely either going to do it again later on that day or the next day. And so if you can be your best witness, be the best witness to law enforcement, get his license plate, description of the guy, record him, record his license plate or whatever, and then get off that path, like James said. That's probably the best bet. Or you can just run with a partner. I recommend running with a partner. That's the best way. It's power in numbers. No one's gonna come up to you when you have 2 or 3 women that you're running with. So either run in partners, or just do with the video camera.
Or a big dog.
Big dog's good.
A dog that likes to eat people, and be protective of its family, not just a small dog that's just gonna yap and bark. But
and she was probably on a main road, I'm assuming. So you can't say, oh, just run on the main road like people used to say. Oh, just run on the main road, you're safe. That's not even safe. You're not even safe on the main road anymore.
Well, there was an incident that happened in Springfield, Massachusetts a few weeks ago. A girl got off of the school bus, and after the bus drove away, a guy came out from behind her, grabbed her, pulled her into a vehicle, and drove off with her. And they didn't recover her luckily they did recover her, but it took hours, and what happened to that poor girl during that time. But they did an Amber Alert, and they ended up finding the vehicle. I believe it was on the Mass Pike, right, going through a construction zone, and they were able to swarm the vehicle and recover the girl. But
now, is that the one with the couple? They followed it. Is that the one?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Okay. There's actually a female driver and a male passenger in that vehicle. So that brings up a good point of not disqualifying it because you're like, oh, there's a woman driving. I'm overthinking things, right? That doesn't mean anything. a female can abduct someone just as easy as a male, or it could be an accomplice. What was it? Elizabeth Smart, right? When she was taken, there was a woman that was, the guy was married, and the wife was participating in anything and everything that he wanted to do to her when she was abducted, and totally supportive of it. So that brings up a very good point of trust of people, and not disqualifying things just because there's a female with that person. That could be actually the distraction, or what they assume is going to make you disqualified that something bad is about to happen, right?
I know I say it a lot. We comes up in a lot of our conversation topics, but you got to trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, even though you can't explain it, you got to go with it. I mean, not everything's bad, and not everything's going to turn into something terrible. But what's the harm in not walking down that dark alley, or going down this isolated road and you don't know where you are or where you're going,
right?
Staying in the main drag, or answering the door and opening it to that stranger at a weird hour instead of talking through the closed door. Or you hear that noise outside at night, and if it's you're home alone and you just something didn't feel right and you're scared, call the local department. Say, listen, I heard something outside. And I'm going to tell you, these guys, the men and women out there serving your communities, would rather come by and turn their spotlight on and find raccoons in your trash than you not call and now you have a home invasion.
Right.
I mean, granted, it's there. Yes, we're busy. They're going call to call many nights, but listen, it's what we're there for. We serve the community, for those in law enforcement. So, and it is a lot less. Ultimately, for them, it's it's a lot less of a tragedy, to a little preventive. So the cruiser comes through. If somebody was trying to break in, they saw it coming, they ran away. We still won.
Yeah, if any of you are watching and you have a question about something that has happened to you, or something you've seen in the news, and you kind of want to ask us a little bit about how a situation should be handled, or different ways to prepare yourself for that type of attack or situation, please ask us. Put them in the chats, put them in the comments below, and we'll be sure to respond. If you're watching this after we are live and you put it in the comments, we'll respond to you, and maybe bring it up in our next segment. We're going to be doing these live streams on a weekly basis, on Sunday nights now, not Saturdays, but Sundays. And we'll be able to answer those questions moving forward as well. Anything you guys want to add about that last situation we were talking about?
No, good.
Okay. We have another question here about so John is asking about the level of Krav Maga training in order to be proficient and being able to defend yourself or defend your family. When does the confidence start to build? And I would say right after your first class. So at our training centers, what we offer is a trial program where you come in about 15 minutes before a class starts, and we have an instructor do a mini private class with you, teach you some of the basics, teach you how to stand, how to move, answer any questions you might have, teach you your first strike, so that you have a nice foundation to work from for your first class. Immediately following, you jump into your first training session in a regular 1-hour Krav Maga class, so that you can experience it firsthand, meet the other people you'll be training with, and decide if this program you're looking to dedicate your time to. And right after that first class, I will tell you that your confidence will be built. Now, our training center might be a little different than other Krav Maga training centers. We're an alpha school. We're an alpha Krav Maga training facility. And we pride ourselves on focusing on technique and not just giving you a workout where you're slugging away at pads. And it's important that you find a school that is focusing on the technique and making sure you're building your confidence, making sure that you're punching correctly, you're moving correctly, you're elbowing, you're hammer fisting correctly, you're kicking correctly, and making sure they're spending that time with you to make sure you're getting it correct. Because the last thing you want to do is, one, get an injury, which is unacceptable and shouldn't happen if you're in a qualified school and you're just starting a program, number one. Two, making sure that you're not creating a bad habit, because if you continue to work those bad habits over and over again for a period of time, now you've created a bad habit. Now you go to a qualified training center and you need to kind of wipe that canvas clean and try to retrain you. And that could be hard to do sometimes and a little bit frustrating for the student. But also, if you were to walk out of that training center after your first class with us, I want to know that I feel pretty darn confident that if you had to deal with the threat that was in front of you, that you would be able to at least have the basic knowledge of a stance and movements and some basic striking to use right after that first class. So to answer your question, in my training center, it would be after your first class, you're going to see a difference in your confidence. And then from there on, it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And I know when we were just on our Facebook Live, one of the questions was, how often should you train? As often as you can is the correct answer, but we understand with family lives and work, sometimes it's hard to get to the training center or to train more than a few times a week. So I guess the standard answer I would give would be, if you can make a class 2 times a week, then you're doing good. If you can make it 3, you're doing better than good. And then from there on, it just increases on your proficiency and the time you could put into your training. Anything you guys want to add to that conversation, guys?
No, I can contest to that, because after the first time I took it, I felt more confident, obviously, than when I walked in. And I've been in law enforcement for 13 years before that, but I've always wanted to train. I've been driving by this studio for years, and it's like, well, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and make that step. And the best thing I ever did was make that step. I feel myself more confident on the street. My situational awareness is much better than what it was. And I'm more confident when I'm in a situation, if I have to use hand to hand or anything like that. So
you bring up a good point, Scott, because I like to talk about the law enforcement aspect and how well it fits, because I feel that Krav Maga sometimes gets a bad rap that it's too violent, right? And Krav Maga is very direct and to the point in neutralizing a threat, but for a law enforcement agency or an officer, it's not about hurting the individual. It's about getting the person under control and getting him into cuffs in the back of the cruiser as safely as possible without the officer or harming the suspect as much as possible, correct?
yes.
What's nice about Alpha, at least our studio, we'll be working a technique, and from the very beginning, Jamie, you would turn and okay, now you would address the law enforcement aspect. If you would illustrate, if you move like this, you can cause a person harm. If you don't do that and you move in this manner, or if you concentrate on with your force in this area, you can lock them up and get them to a point where you can go into cuffing. You can address other threats in the room before you have to go to cuffs. And the person that you've got in the position you have them in is not fighting back because their movement's causing them harm, or they're just in a position where they can't move without causing themselves injury.
Right.
Just a matter of standing still and still able to control them and address the threat, which is great.
Yeah. And we pride ourselves on that. I mean, more than 50% of our student base is law enforcement. We have a lot of federal and some state and local law enforcement. So we pride ourselves on that. And I think that speaks volumes for the level of training you get at an Alpha Krav Maga school and at our training centers here in Connecticut and up in Maine.
Is that kind of training is huge for anybody. You can't always carry a weapon. You can't always bring a gun. You can't always bring your knife. You can't bring all these other wonderful things. Your mace isn't always going to be allowed wherever you want to go, but you are. And the knowledge and the skill set you develop by working, doing Krav Maga at Alpha, nobody can take that from you. And I find that before I got involved, I wasn't afraid of being in a fight. I sure as heck wasn't as effective as I am now, or had the skill set I have now. And there's times where I can't carry a firearm. I like to carry it all the time because I've always had them in my life. But I don't think twice now that I have to leave it behind. I have to leave it locked up because I have those much wider set of tools available to me. And as we talk about in classes and we talk about all of the training, basically every part of you can be is a weapon. You know, you can, from your elbow to your forehead, knees, whatever. There's a lot you have on you that can be used against an attacker.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we train that. And, the other part that I think we should hit upon here too is ground fighting, right? And we really are focused on the ground fighting skills as well. We have a lot of officers that will come to us that maybe have a BJJ background or that want to kind of expand upon their striking skills. And I've trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years and I love it. But when you come into our ground fighting program, we're going to kind of take the best of and put it to give it to those officers as quickly as possible, rather than having them have to train for 5 to 7 years to get that expert knowledge on how to obstruct what a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt might be trying to do to them if they were to get into a fight with one while on the job, or even one of our students gets into an argument with someone. What can you do to obstruct anything they're going to try to do to you and get to a dominant position to neutralize that threat? That's important. I think it's extremely important, right? I wish that I had the opportunity to go into every law enforcement agency in the United States with you guys and be able to offer this information to every single officer, because it would be life-changing. I think we'd see a lot more officers going home safe to their family, and I think we would see a lot more suspects as well under control and being able to get in the back of a cruiser and on their merry way as safely as possible if this type of training was offered to a lot more agencies.
Yeah, because according to the FBI statistics, in 2019, 58,000 police officers were assaulted, where they had to go to the hospital for treatment. So, I mean, with that training, maybe the numbers could have been a lot lower than what it was. But yeah, that's a lot of officers getting assaulted, 58,000 of them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we can also talk upon some of the laws that are happening and some of the restrictions that are being put on law enforcement, such as the new laws in New York, right? We've heard some from some of the NYPD and some officers down in New York as to some of the individuals that are getting arrested, and because of the bail reform act that they put in place in New York, there was an assault on officer that we watched that video, guys, a couple weeks ago, and the guy went to a jail and was out walking the street within a few hours and walked out not even with bail, a promise to appear, and he had a criminal record. He assaulted a law enforcement officer. It was caught on video from multiple angles, and he was just let free to walk away. I think it's extremely important that if you're watching this and you're in law enforcement, to get yourself some training, get to a qualified school. When you go into that school, make sure you have a good rapport with the instructor. Make sure you feel that you're getting what you need to out of the class. Don't just join a training center based on price point or based on it's the guy down the street and it's the closest that I could get to. You might have to travel a little bit. You might have to invest a little bit into a good training facility. But believe me, guys, it's worth it. And if you have any questions and you're not sure exactly where to go train, feel free to send us a message to our website or put them in the comments. And one of us will reach out to you and tell you if we have someone in your area that we would recommend for you to go in and get a good level of training for being on the job. Anything you guys want to add to that?
No, other than do something, find some school. You might not be in our area, we may not be able to the right fit for you, but do something. A lot of guys go, half their career and do nothing other than what they learned in the academy, and it's doing a disservice to themselves. And I waited a very long time to get involved or try Krav Maga, and I can think of all the times some of the techniques and the knowledge would have been very useful over the years. So it's better late than never, but still something to look into. And again, like Jamie said, not all facilities and not all gyms and not all studios are going to be the same or be the right fit for you.
Right.
As much as I like to say, oh, come to us, we are the best, because we are. You might have you might find you just might not click with you, but find something, do something, train, and go. And if your department doesn't offer it or provide it, make sure you have a tourniquet. Learn how to use the tourniquet. Because it's not being handed to you at a department doesn't mean you should ignore it.
Right. I actually have a couple people put in some comments. Owen says, I used to leave Krav Maga many times in the school to de-escalate, and many times had to not throw a punch, but rather use joint control or a simple block to get out of a situation.
So this young man, I know this story. He was being threatened in school, and the person who was a couple years older threatened to stab him with a pencil, and not just stab him, but they were over the head in the fashion you would see somebody try and stab somebody else with a knife. This young man decided to use some of the knowledge he learned at Alpha to disarm the person. He was able to move in, take control, to take the weapon away, and articulate how he did it and what he could have done and chose not to do when he was being questioned. Instead of a palm strike or a punch, he decided to do a body, like a shove away. And gain control, and then gain distance, and take control of the situation.
Yep.
I can tell you the person that the disciplinarian at the school wanted to write him up, and it was pointed out to them how he articulated himself, and no discipline and no repercussion came for that individual. For him. The other party was in trouble, of course, but and that's huge that all of a sudden they turn around, start training, and then turn around and be able to protect themselves without confident enough to do it in a manner which they didn't have to cause harm to the other person because it wasn't the right environment.
Right. Absolutely. And that brings us all to, continuing the conversation about kids and using self-defense to be able to defend themselves. I'm a firm believer that if your child is getting picked on in school and it turns physical and someone tries to hit your child, they should be 150% in their right to lay that person out and defend themselves, and not just curl up into a fetal position, get kicked and hit, and make themselves a victim. And it's something that I really push hard inside of my training center. I know there's a lot of other martial arts schools within a 15-mile radius around me that say, oh, just use your voice. And if they do try to hit you, just block it. And then a teacher or someone is going to intervene. I feel that you need to stand up for yourself, not be a victim. And if that means that you're going to be physical and someone tries to hit you with a certain amount of power, you hit them with 3 times the amount of power back and defend yourself and be done with it. And you're probably going to have some consequences to deal with. You're probably going to have to go to the principal's office afterwards. But when you go to that principal's office, you tell them, call my mom and dad. I want them here now. And when your parents arrive and they hear that you did the right thing, you stood up for yourself, you weren't a victim, and you defended yourself, they're going to give you a big hug, and they'll deal with whatever they need to with the school. Anything else you guys like to add with that, guys?
No.
Titus put a comment in. Titus says, that's why I joined. I needed real world combatives for the street. And Titus being the Marine, he needed the experience on the battlefield as well. And Titus has started with us and has now become an instructor, certified instructor under T4 Survival. And he's starting to get into the MMA matches as well. He has his second fight coming up actually next weekend, February 8th, up in Portland, Maine. He fought his first match last year and knocked the guy out in the second round, right? So we're looking for that return for this fight coming up. Might be live streaming as well, that fight on New England Fights YouTube channel. I'll try to get some information up on that for you guys as well. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below or send us a message. But thank you, Titus. We love having you as part of our team. You're an amazing instructor and an amazing fighter. And we're looking forward to being in your corner next Saturday up in Portland, Maine. Right, guys?
Absolutely. It was a good time. The first one, I can't wait to go back up.
All right, guys, I think that's all we have for tonight. We appreciate all of you joining us here for this live stream. If you're just joining us or joining us toward the tail end here, we're going to be doing these live streams on a weekly basis starting on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. So make sure to follow us on our Facebook pages or Instagram, T4 Survival and Alpha Krav Maga. And check the links here on YouTube to find out the time to tune in and the links to tune in. But 7 o'clock Sunday nights will be live streaming. We appreciate all of you joining us. If you have any questions for us, please put them in the comments below or send us a message. You can always go to our website T4survival.com, and start a chat. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see a little speech bubble. You click that. You start a chat, and you're going to get one of us. And if we're not available because we are busy, you can leave a message for us and we'll get back to you usually within a few hours, unless it's later in the evening. It might be the following day, or if we're traveling, it might take us an extra few hours or a day to get back to you. But we're pretty responsive as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'd love to hear from you. Mike, Scott, you want anything, add anything before we disconnect?
No, just everybody be safe. Thanks for joining.
Great. Well, thank you. No, go ahead, Mike. I'll let you go. I'll be quiet. Go.
Well, we'll see you next weekend.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate your support. Do you want to say something, Mike?
Yeah, maybe we should try and do a little from the fight Sunday night.
Yeah.
Both.
Okay. So watch us for that. Maybe we'll be able to live stream that. We'll see what's going on. And if not, like I said, we'll try to post something on our Facebook and Instagram. If the New England Fights will be streaming their fight live, so you could check it out online. Remember, T4 Survival training for the fight of your life. Thanks for joining us, guys. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night.